What's up, truckers? Tricky Mick here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've got the shiny side up, as I like to say. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe buttons, and notifications bell to keep getting videos like this in your feed. So today we're going to be talking about the State of the Union. Not the address itself by Biden, but the topics that Americans are concerned about. Short answer, not so great. Long answer, watch the video to see what Americans are concerned about. So, State of the Union 2024, where Americans stand on the economy, immigration, and other key issues. President Joe Biden will deliver his third State of the Union address on March 7th. Ahead of the speech, Americans are focused on the health of the economy and the recent surge of migrant encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as ongoing conflicts abroad. Now, instead of saying migrant encounters, they should be saying illegal immigrants or criminal migrants, but that's okay. That's the wording that they want to use, not what I would use. Here's a look at public opinion on key issues facing the country, drawn from recent Pew Research Center surveys of U.S. adults. And again, the economy remains top of mind for most Americans. Now, here are the top policies that we're looking at: strengthening the economy, defending against terrorism, reducing influence of money in politics, reducing healthcare costs, improving education, making Social Security financially sound, reducing crime, dealing with immigration. That should be way higher if you want the other things to fall through and work correctly. Reducing availability of illegal drugs, reducing budget deficit, improving the way the political system works, improving job situation, improving energy system, protecting the environment, dealing with problems of poor people, improving transportation, strengthening military, dealing with climate change, addressing issues around race, and dealing with global trade. Now, nearly three-quarters of Americans, 73%, say strengthening the economy should be a top priority for Biden and Congress this year, according to a Center survey conducted in January. Of the 20 policy goals we asked about, no other issue stands out, as has been the case for the past 2 years. This assessment comes amid ongoing worries about high prices. Majorities of U.S. adults say they are very concerned about the price of food and consumer goods, 72%, and the cost of housing. Now, this is something that I'm experiencing a lot right now with 3 children. And as many of you know, I'm an over-the-road truck driver, so I go in many different cities and I see the different prices. And $100 used to buy me almost 2 weeks of groceries in the semi-truck, and now it's at the point where it's almost $200 a week most weeks for me. And it's really unfortunate because I'm looking to save money to buy a house, and I'm seeing a lot of things pointing to where that's going to take me maybe a year or two longer than I really hoped for. So I think a lot of Americans are in the same situation, and we're really hoping that things improve. Still, views of the economy overall have warmed a bit in the past year. Slightly more than a quarter of Americans, 28%, rate U.S. economic conditions as excellent or good, an increase of 9 percentage points since last April. Those people are crazy. It's definitely nowhere near what it should be, nowhere near what it was a few years before Biden got in. And, with the COVID scenario, I think we can probably give Trump a little bit of leeway with the things that happened at the end of his term there. Now, this shift is driven largely by Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. 44% rate the economy positively, compared with just 13% of Republicans and GOP leaners. Now, again, just like I said, I think we kind of see what's happening here. Despite these sharply different assessments, majorities of both Democrats and Republicans say strengthening the economy should be a top policy goal this year. These shares are largely unchanged since last year. Immigration resonates strongly with Republicans. Most Democrats and nearly half of Republicans say boosting resources for quicker decisions on asylum cases would improve situation at the Mexico border. Now, here we can see increasing the number of immigration judges and staff so that asylum applications can be decided more quickly. We've got 60% total better, 11% worse. And, again, that leans exactly the way that you think it would, where 47% of Republicans say better, 18% worse, and 75% of Democrats say better, and 5% say worse. And then, a similar issue over here on creating more opportunities for people to legally immigrate to the U.S. Republicans say 43% better, 22% worse, and Democrats say 69% better and 8% worse. Personally, I think we need to end immigration for maybe 2 to 4 years, literally all immigration, not let a single person come in until we have some of the issues in this country solved in the first place. About 6 in 10 Americans, 57%, say dealing with immigration should be a top policy goal for the president and Congress this year. Share that's increased 18 points from 39% since the start of Biden's term. This change is almost entirely due to growing concern among Republicans. 76% now say immigration should be a top priority, up from 39% in 2021. By comparison, the 39% of Democrats who cite immigration as a priority has remained fairly stable since 2021. Now, I can't imagine how you would think that immigration is not an issue that needs to be taken care of, but I digress. People are going to live in the crazy world they do, and there's not a whole lot we can really do to convince them until the issues at the border start coming to a city near them. And we're actually seeing that in some of the cities around the country. Look at New York City, where they were saying, we're out of space, we're out of money, and we can't house these immigrants. But they were the first ones to jump and say that they wanted them. Now, the growing number of migrant encounters at the southern border has emerged as a key issue in the 2024 election cycle. Biden and former President Donald Trump, who is running for the Republican presidential nominee, both visited the border on February 29th. 8 in 10 U.S. adults say the federal government is doing a bad job dealing with the large number of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border, including 45% who say it's doing a very bad job, according to our January survey. Republicans and Democrats alike fault the federal government for its handling of the border situation. 89% Republicans and 73% Democrats, respectively, say it's doing a bad job. The survey also asked Americans to react to 9 potential policies that could address the situation at the border and found broadly positive views of several. And most of the positive views are on the Democrat side, so it's not exactly what they're portraying here in the article. Half or more of U.S. adults say the following would make the situation better: increasing the number of judges and staff to process asylum applications, 60%, creating more opportunities for people to legally immigrate to the U.S., 56%, and increasing deportations of people who are in the country illegally, 52%. Fewer than 2 in 10 say any of these proposals would make the situation worse. Terrorism and crime are growing concerns, particularly among Republicans. Since 2021, concerns about crime have grown among both Republicans and Democrats. So if you look here, you see defending the country from future terrorist attacks. When Biden first got in, 68% of Republicans, now up to 76%. And somehow with Democrats, it went down from 58% down to 51%. And now reducing crime, you can see across the board a large increase in concern. Republicans 55% all the way up to 68%, and Democrats 39% all the way up to 47%. Now, I don't understand why this is not higher among both parties, especially Republicans. You'd think that would be around 100%, as we're seeing major issues in places like New York City where people have been pushed onto the subway and they have the National Guard being deployed. About 6 in 10 U.S. adults say defending the country from future terrorist attacks and reducing crime should be political priorities this year, but Republicans place more emphasis on these issues than Democrats. Republicans' concerns about terrorism have risen 11 points since last year, and now say it should be a top policy priority, up from 65% then. By comparison, about half of Democrats say defending against terrorism should be a priority this year, while 55% said this last year. Concerns about crime have risen somewhat in both parties since the start of Biden's presidency. About 7 in 10 Republicans say reducing crime should be a top priority this year, up 13 points since 2021. And 47% of Democrats say the same, up 8 points since 2021. Most Americans see current foreign conflicts as important to U.S. interests. Now, I think they worded this question in not the best way, because it says, concerned with foreign conflicts as important to U.S. interests. It doesn't really say a whole lot about, the money being spent or the actual results of this. So Democrats are more likely than Republicans to see Russia-Ukraine war as important. War between Russia and Ukraine, 69% of Republicans, 81% of Democrats. The war between Israel and Hamas, 76% of Democrats, 77% Republican. Tensions between China and Taiwan, 76% Democrat and 78% Republican. So I think it's something that they should have worded a little bit better, because they're concerned about it as important to U.S. interests, but it doesn't really say what each side is looking for. So they probably could have worded that a little bit better. And then here's the percent who say are important to them personally. The war between Russia and Ukraine, 56% Republican, 65% Democrat. The war between Israel and Hamas, 66% Republican, 67% Democrat. And the tensions between China and Taiwan, 56% Democrat, 62% Republican. As Biden urges Congress to pass emergency foreign aid, About 3/4 of Americans see the war between Israel and Hamas, the tensions between China and Taiwan, and the war between Russia and Ukraine as somewhat or very important to U.S. national interests, according to a separate Center survey from January. Democrats and Republicans are about equally likely to see the Israel-Hamas war and China-Taiwan tensions as important to national interests. The Democrats are more likely than Republicans to describe the war in Ukraine this way. In late 2023 survey, 48% of Republicans said the U.S. was giving too much support to Ukraine, while just 16% of Democrats said the same. This partisan gap has grown steadily wider since the beginning of the war. Here's what I was talking about. Republicans and Democrats alike prioritizing limiting money in politics. Okay, so Democrats and Republicans alike say major donors, lobbyists have too much influence on Congress. And I think this is something that the vast majority of us can agree. We need to have the people having a say in what happens in this country, not the lobbyists, the large employers, and the richest people in the country. It's very unfortunate that that's how it goes, but I digress. I think it's something that we can definitely solve in my lifetime. So the people in their districts, 8% Democrat, 9% Republican, which makes sense. Obviously, the people should have the most power. Large employers in their districts, 60% Republican, 63% Democrat. Lobbyists and special interest groups, 72% Democrat, 78% Republican, and the people who donated a lot of money to their political campaigns, 80% Democrat, 83% Republican. And then it says the same thing here that we just went over. About 6 in 10 Americans, including similar shares of Democrats and Republicans, say reducing the influence of money in politics should be a top policy goal this year. Most Americans favor spending limits for political campaigns, according to a July 2023 Center survey. 8 in 10 also say major campaign donors have too much influence over decisions that members of Congress make, while 73% say lobbyists and special interest groups have too much influence. And 81% of Americans, including majorities in both parties, rate members of Congress poorly when it comes to keeping their personal financial interests separate from their work as public servants. And then here's something that we probably already know for the most part. Wide partisan gaps on climate policy. Republicans rank climate change at the bottom of their priorities for the president and Congress in 2024. And I'll say personally, I think that this is something that is kind of at the bottom of my priority because we have a lot of things that need to be fixed in this country. And as we focus on climate change policies, we're increasing the cost of energy exponentially. And a lot of people don't understand how that works. You know, you put a carbon tax, which when you increase the price of energy, that's basically a carbon tax. Think about when food gets to the store. The farmer had to pay higher costs for his energy. Then the truck who had to pick it up had to pay higher costs for his energy. Then the store has to pay higher costs for their energy to store it. And they all have to pay more taxes at the same time. So it's really an exponential problem where a small increase can create a large increase at the end product. All right, so let's take a look here. U.S. adults, 31% say dealing with global trade issues, 36% say dealing with global climate change, and 73% say strengthening the economy. And here's how it leans different for Republicans versus Democrats. Okay, so for Republicans at the top, we have 84% say strengthening the economy, 12% say dealing with global climate change, and obviously they're going to put this one, 14% say addressing race issues. Now over here on the Democrat side, at the top we see 70% say reducing healthcare costs, 59% say dealing with global climate change, and 23% at the bottom say strengthening the military. It's about what you would expect realistically. And then here we have the same thing basically going over it again. So Democrats are much more likely than Republicans to say protecting the environment and dealing with climate change should be top policy priorities for 2024. In fact, addressing climate change ranks last on Republicans' list of priorities this year. Views of the Biden administration's current climate policies also differ sharply by party. 8 in 10 Democrats say the federal government is doing too little to reduce the effects of climate change, compared with 29% of Republicans, according to a Center survey from spring 2023. Now, I would think that would be lower with Republicans, but overall, a majority of U.S. adults support prioritizing the development of renewable energy, such as wind and solar, over expanding the production of oil, coal, and natural gas. Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to prefer this, 90% versus 42%. Still, the public overall is hesitant about a full energy transition. Just 31% say the U.S. should phase out fossil fuels completely. Now, here's something that those people need to understand. If you phase out fossil fuels completely, there is nothing to replace them now, and most likely in the next 30 years, we're still going to be using the majority of fossil fuels to power this country. It's just something that you need to provide the energy that this country needs. So, we have a few things here that I talked about. Like I said, Americans' top policy priorities this year. You've got from strengthening the economy all the way down to dealing with global trade. So what are the topics that are important to you about the State of the Union, about picking the next presidency, and who do you think should be the next leader for the United States? Well, I'm Tricky Mick. Keep on rolling, and I hope you have a great day.